Borderlands 4 has 4 playable Vault Hunters at launch, and it is not easy to pick a favorite, as they are more varied than ever before, with all of them of course having access to 3 action skills, a brand new unique trait and a heavily expanded skill tree. But we got all the info for you right here to help you decide. Thanks to 2K for sponsoring the video. You can check out Borderlands 4 via the link in the video description. And let's start by talking about Harlowe, an ex-Maliwan scientist who has some very high-tech gadgets at her disposal. Fun fact by the way, she is also part of the Tron family, who you might remember as they showed up as bosses during Borderlands 3. But yeah, every Vault Hunter of course has 3 action skills at their disposal that you can pick from, and for Harlowe they're all high-tech equipment like the Chroma Accelerator. This cannon fires a massive slow-moving orb that freezes enemies as it passes through them, and it can be manually detonated to trigger a massive radiation explosion. It can of course also be modified with different augments, and especially the one that turns it into a bouncing ball that jumps between enemies looks like a lot of fun. Her second action skill, the Flux Generator, looks perfect for support-oriented builds, as it drops an area of effect that freezes enemies and gives an overshield to any allies that enter the field. It also applies Entanglement, a status effect that is completely unique to Harlowe and very powerful. Any gun or skill damage dealt to an entangled enemy is shared between all other enemies that are also affected by this status, making it perfect for clearing groups. And this Entangle effect is actually tied to Harlowe's unique trait. These passive effects are a new addition for Borderlands 4, but unlike skills, they don't need to be bought and are always active. In Harlowe's case, her trait allows her to apply Entangle to any enemies hit by her action skill, so that also includes the Chroma Accelerator and my personal favorite, Zero Point. This allows you to suspend an enemy in a mid-air stasis, so it's very similar to Maya's Face Lock and Amara's Face Grasp. What's new however is that Harlowe can reactivate the skill to slam an enemy down to create a small explosion, and with it being your action skill, it's also a really nice way of applying the Entangled status. Now the skill trees in Borderlands 4 have been massively expanded, so I won't go over the entire thing, but I do want to highlight some general trends and cool skills. Harlowe's kit has a ton of options to increase both your cryo and radiation damage, and of course many buffs to your unique status effect Entangle. With Runaway Reaction, you can apply Entangle whenever you apply a status effect to an enemy, and with Experimentation, you can cause an elemental explosion whenever you kill an entangled enemy. And yes, that triggers on all other enemies also afflicted with the status. So Harlowe is a very tactical Vault Hunter, allowing you to spread tons of debuffs to enemies, manipulate the battlefield and deal mass amounts of elemental damage. But the craziest Vault Hunter of the bunch has to be Amon, and I don't mean the fact that he's a terrifying and massive Viking man. No, it has everything to do with his trait Forge skill, which gives each of his action skills a secondary use that you can trigger by holding the button. So that gives you access to 6 different skills instead of 3, making Amon probably the most versatile character of the bunch. With Crucible, Amon spawns in elemental axes that he can throw at enemies. You have multiple charges, and with each throw you are able to pick between a frost and a fire axe, dealing elemental damage of that type. Holding the button triggers an attack called Double Edge instead, where Amon links both axes together and throws them out. They then ricochet between enemies, dealing frost damage as they hit, and once the blades return to you, their damage is changed to fire. Obviously, you can expect a lot of buffs to elemental damage in this part of the skill tree, but there are some even cooler things. Many of the augments change the type of your action skill weapon, meaning you can also throw hammers or swords. And there are also many skills that allow you to spawn forge drones, mini versions of these weapons that seek out and attack enemies on their own accord. If you'd rather play more defensively, you'll want to go with Scourge. This action skill spawns a giant shield for Amon, which absorbs damage and raises a vengeance meter. This vengeance can then be spent to fire a cryo damage Forge Wave attack, with it dealing more damage the higher your meter. Holding down the button triggers Firewall, a defensive barrier that absorbs projectiles and increases the projectile speed and damage of you and your allies. You can even modify Scourge to include a taunt, and this part of the skill tree contains many buffs to your overall survivability. So if you want to play the party tank, this is the skill for you. Amon's final action skill is called Onslaughter, and it buffs him with more shield regen, gun damage and movement speed for the duration. Most importantly, Repeatedly, your melee attack is changed into a rocket punch for the duration, allowing you to easily close the gap to enemies while also staggering them. By holding down the button, you perform a Molten Slam, a big AoE attack that deals incendiary damage to anyone caught in the radius. And there's a heavy focus on melee damage and survivability in this part of the skill tree, so if you like being up close and using weapons like shotguns and SMGs, this one is perfect for you. Now, the selection of Vault Hunters would of course not be complete without a Siren, and Borderlands 4's Vex is bringing some very interesting skills to the table. And of course, if you like the video so far, leave a like and subscribe for more Borderlands 4 videos. Let's start with Vex's trait Phase Covenant, as it applies to all of her action skills. Both your melee damage and action skill will deal elemental damage, and the type of elemental damage is decided by what weapon you are currently wielding. So in the case of Phase Familiar, where Vex summons her pet Trouble, the element of your companion is decided by the gun you're holding. Trouble is always out, by the way. He can die during combat but will respawn after a cooldown. Activating the action skill instead teleports Trouble to where you are currently aiming, causing a damaging explosion and temporarily turning your pet into a badass, instantly restoring health and dealing increased damage. Many skills and augments from this tree give Trouble new attacks and abilities, like a tail swipe attack or a chance to spawn an illusion whenever he attacks. And many of the buffs apply to both Vex and her minions, meaning it's great for buffing Trouble, but it also has some great synergy with her second action skill, Dead Ringer. With Dead Ringer, you have 3 charges you can use to summon phase clones of yourself. There are 2 types of clones: Spectres, which deal ranged gun damage and are stationary, and melee focused Reapers that move around and taunt enemies. You can use a combination or summon multiple clones of the same type, as you can have more than one on the field, and as you'd expect, many skills in this part of the tree also buff your minions. There's some great ones to empower your phase clones, like Heirloom, where one of your Spectres gains a copy of your currently equipped gun. Especially nice, of course, if you have a powerful legendary. Now, if you'd rather play Vex as a solo damage dealer, her third action skill, Incarnate, is perfect for this. This unleashes her inner Siren power, spawning these cool skeletal wings while increasing movement speed and allowing you to fire a powerful Eldritch Blast from your offhand. The cooldown of this blast is reduced by dealing gun damage, so this ability rewards a very aggressive playstyle. There are also a ton of skills in this part of the tree that give you lifesteal or reduce the cooldown of your rep kit, the new healing item in Borderlands 4, and there's even an entirely new status effect, as Vex can unlock the Bloodletter skill and apply the bleeding effect with critical hits, causing kinetic damage over time to an enemy. But regardless of whether you build her as an all-out summoner or a life-stealing, bleed-inflicting damage monster, Vex is looking very powerful. And the final Vault Hunter available at launch is Rafa, a soldier with a high-tech exosuit that allows him to digistruct a variety of armaments. With arc knives, you construct these massive blades on your arms and can go full melee for the duration of the ability. Hitting enemies puts a mark on them that increases damage, and next to regular attacks you also have a dash attack and Blade Fury, where you spin around to deal massive damage and end the skill. Obviously, expect a lot of buffs to melee damage in this part of the skill tree, although there are some cool grenade related skills as well, like dropping one on the ground when you perform a dash attack with your action skill, or giving you a chance to spawn one on a critical hit. Activating arc knives or any other action skill also triggers Rafa's trait Overdrive, which increases movement speed and damage from all sources. This buff slowly runs out as soon as your action skill ends, so in general you want to find ways to reduce your action skill cooldown to keep Overdrive up as long and often as possible. Rafa's second action skill is called Apophis Lance, and it equips this giant cannon in your offhand. It fires a piercing shock projectile and has multiple charges that can either be used to fire more projectiles or to overcharge one to increase damage, size and speed. Or you can end the skill prematurely to allow the remaining charges to restore some of your cooldown, meaning you have a higher uptime on your overdrive buff. And speaking of which, this part of the skill tree offers many ways to make your trait even more powerful, as it can add extra buffs to overdrive's effect, like regenerating ammo, increasing fire rate, or adding crit chance to every shot. But if you really want to bring the big guns, you'll want to go with the Peacebreaker cannons, which summon these shoulder-mounted weapons that continuously rain down fire on enemies. They can be modified with augments in many different ways, like changing the ammo type to an elemental laser, adding the ability to shoot fire bombs, or they can even be placed down to function like a turret. There's also a cool part of the skill tree that plays into Rafa's background as a Tediore soldier, as it gives many bonuses to indirect projectiles. These include your action skill, but also thrown guns, meaning you can make a pretty crazy build centered on the disposable Tediore weapons if you want to. Let me know what Vault Hunter you'll be playing in Borderlands 4, and remember to check out the game room via the special link in the description. Subscribe to not miss our next video on the game, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!